Welcome everyone. My name's Joseph Kenny and I'm the membership and events executive with the Irish Computer Society. And I'm delighted to have another event in our web accessibility series today in partnership with the Centre for Excellence in Universal Design at the NDA. We had a couple other series in the past, and recordings are available on the ICS and NDA websites if you'd like to go back and have a look at them. Today's event is being recorded also and will become available and circulated afterwards. And also, just to let you know, we're delighted to continue our partnership with NDA, and we'll have a further series later in the year. So with that said, I'm going to pass over to Donal.
Thanks a million, Joe, and welcome everyone to, as Joe said, this final in our series of our spring series of web accessibility seminars. And it's maybe fitting that before we finish up this season's series of seminars that we focus on people, we focus on users, and look at the benefits and the how-to in terms of user testing and involving users in the design and development of websites. My own experience in conducting user testing was as a developer over 20 years ago, developing a public website, and when we conducted or when we commissioned user testing, it kind of transformed my way of viewing the approach I had to developing websites, because really for the first time I saw the impact of many of the decisions that I was taking as a developer, coding away and publishing that code then as HTML to the website. And one memory I have is of a video recording of that user testing, and I had put in a very long description of this image that I had spent maybe 2 days designing, and I had maybe about 40 words describing how the logo represented the ethos of the organization, etc., etc. And it was a beautiful piece of text, very poetic, except when a screen reader user encountered it on every single page, they had to listen to this waffle every single time. And that small little insight into what it was like for a person to use a design that I had created was a real eye-opener from the very beginning about how really at the end of the day, the most important thing about my coding was how it was used by people. Another context of user testing that I want to refer to today is the Web Accessibility Directive. So while these sessions have previously focused very much on some of the more technical aspects of web accessibility and testing, and then maybe some of the aspects of managing web accessibility, the directive also does require public bodies to engage with end users when designing and developing their websites so that they're accessible. And a third context to this session today are what are called the design principles for government. And I'm holding up a card at the moment which is sets out the 10 principles of design for government in Ireland. And you know, as with many of these things, user-centered design, user involvement is referenced from the very beginning. So principle 1 states that we will put people first. Principle 2 states that we will design to be inclusive. And principle 3 says we will design services together. So there is really, I suppose, no argument about why we should be user testing. And my own professional experience is that it adds an immense value to the designs that we produce. So all that said, I'm delighted to have 3 fantastic speakers with us here today. We have Joshue from InterAccess, who's going to speak first. And I'm also delighted to have our friends from HSE Digital, Ulla, Devitt and Sorca Duffy joining us as well. So Josh is going to go first. Josh is a long-term friend of ours in the Centre for Excellence in Universal Design, and is the founder of InterAccess, an Irish accessibility consultancy. And he's an internationally recognized expert in the field of universal design and accessible web. And he is a published author, musician, co-chair of the Accessibility Guidelines Working Group at the W3C, and ex-editor of WCAG 2.1 accessibility standards, which means that as I am testing websites and figuring out why does this success criteria say something in particular, it's all Josh's fault, right? That's what I default to, is that it's all down to Josh and what he was thinking on that day. I know it wasn't that process, Josh, but that's where my brain goes to.
There
so
may
folks,
be some
look, I'm
truth
going
in
to hand
that, Donal.
over to Josh straight away,
Yeah.
and invite you to talk to us a little bit about your professional experience in commissioning or in conducting user testing on behalf of clients. So take it away, Josh.
Great, thanks very much, Donal. A really nice introduction and fantastic to be here. Thanks for having me, and it's great to be here with Ulla and Sorca as well from the HSC, and to have you all here. Accessibility is a fantastic, interesting and exciting area to work in, and it can be really rewarding, and there are brilliant engineering and design challenges that come along with that. But I think Donal's absolutely right to focus on. The focus today is going to be on the person, the people who are going to be using the things that we build, and doing that and making that happen can be quite hard, because we often have to throw out a lot of assumptions that we've made about the design decisions that we've made, why we're doing it, who we're doing it for. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we go. So I'm going to just rock on, because I'm going to show some video from some usability tests which I've conducted, which the NDA have very, very kindly allowed us to use, because we're actually going to be showing you videos of testing one of the services that the NDA have actually developed. So again, this is all in the context of doing this work can be quite humbling too. And I think to be involved, to take this all the right way and to be involved in the spirit of accessibility, really, you have to take that in a kind of a humble way too, because really, as Donal said, you will have people who will say, oh, that's absolutely horrendous, I just can't do that at all, and that makes you feel terrible. And then, but the flip side of that is also true. Hey, that was really good, and it can happen in an instant. That it can just be an instant. Okay, so I'm going to rock on, and we're going to have a look at just some of these slides. So I won't do any more about me, enough about that. So why do we be accessible? Why should we do this stuff? Well, first of all, it's the right thing to do. And secondly, it is a legal requirement under the Web Accessibility Directive and now the European Accessibility Act, which goes beyond public sector organizations. What is accessibility really about? Fundamentally, it's about making stuff work for people with disabilities, and they're often using assistive technologies. So what are assistive technologies? They are products that are used by people with disabilities to help them accomplish tasks that they just couldn't do otherwise, right? And so really making that all happen and making that all fly is potentially a bit of an ask if you're from an organization where you're not really acclimatized or accustomed to really meeting those needs, and you're under pressure because you've got like this scary directive or whatever it is, so how do you make that happen? And this is what we're really interested in trying to tease out and help you with. So first of all, what accessibility isn't. It's not about a them. That's the first thing to say. It's not easy and it's not quick, right? It's just something that you just not have to just don't get out of the way so you can go on and do other stuff. It's not merely a box ticking exercise or something other people will do. Everybody here on this call has got a part to play in making all this accessibility stuff happen. It really is a team sport. So it's the first thing. What is doing accessibility right? Now, this is really important because we have brilliant universal design principles and universal and user-centered design, really putting the user first. But how do we do that? What does that really mean? It sounds like a lot of work, you might be thinking. Yes, it kind of is, because it's really about thinking about the needs of other people. and particularly needs that you mightn't actually really understand. You may have a vague idea of something that might work, and then you might then, with the best will in the world, build requirements to support that vague idea. But will it really work? Is it really going to fly? So understanding these needs of people with diverse needs, if that's not circular, is kind of critical. So things like usability testing, user involvement, connecting with people with disabilities essentially is critical, right? So that helps us develop real requirements that are based on those needs. It takes away the vagueness from the whole thing. And then when you understand the user need, you can develop technical requirements. If you don't do that properly, the technical requirements you develop will be fuzzy at best and pretty much even downright harmful at worst. Okay, so what doesn't happen with the best will in the world? So I'm going to show you a couple of slides. If I think these are brilliant examples of when it can all go wrong. So this is a actual real, accessible ramp, right? Where essentially the top 3 parts of the steps are steps. And with the best will in the world, people actually built this kind of thing, thinking it was going to be accessible. So again, this is when people really don't know what they're doing. This is also one of my faves, which is essentially a vending machine, where you have a whole load of Doritos and crisps and whatnot, actually behind glass with Braille describing the prices and all of the rest of it. Again, this is done with the best will in the world by the people who probably built it. But again, it's a solution which is just not going to work for anybody. So this is what we don't want, okay? So usability testing is a way of doing that. Apologies for the first graphic. I probably should have audio described that a little bit better. But anyway, I'm making a point about making the effort to really understand your user needs and the people who you're trying to design for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go just through a few kind of overview points, critical points about usability testing, and then we're going to watch some usability testing. So you will gain a fantastic insight into the user experience doing usability testing, but you'll also gain a fantastic insight into the human interaction and the processes that you will take it into other projects. So you may do a usability test once or twice with a particular group, and then you'll find that you'll internalize the needs of those the people that you've met, and you'll remember that and bring that forward into your future projects. So this is really, really valuable stuff. A good test facilitator is also very important because they will help to set the scene and also design suitable tests and interpret the results. And that's actually very important because fundamentally usability testing is bad science, to cut a long story short. And it's very, very important that you don't make design decisions based on necessarily just one person's experience with something, because there may be factors such as the person not understanding their assistive technology, struggling with some aspect that mightn't actually be as a result of the design. So you need to be able to walk a kind of a line between understanding what the user needs and understanding the architectural or design constraints of the system you're testing. So at InterAccess, we use a very simple think aloud protocol. We just try to ask the person to go through the test. What are you thinking? How does that feel? Is that working? This kind of thing. We don't worry about being too sciencey at all. We acknowledge the kind of artificial nature of the whole thing too, because that's, I think, is very, very important. They feel a bit weird. You feel a bit weird. Let's just try and get something out of the whole thing that could be useful. So that's the kind of bottom line for me. Making the person feel comfortable is critical. And that's something that I think will build up over time as a relationship develops. Okay, got some video I want to show. So yeah, essentially, usability testing is a fantastic way to connect or ground accessibility, because you've all been talking about accessibility, thinking about accessibility, which is great. But, you know, it needs to be grounded. It needs to go beyond policy and conformance. All of those things are drivers. They move you in the right direction. But for us to be effective in this work, there are insights that we need to gain, and we need to kind of connect with doing real things that are of substantial benefit. And I do think usability testing, connecting with users, connecting with people, humanizing all of this is a critical part of making this work. Okay, we're going to watch some tests now, which is conducted by myself. and my friend and colleague Brian Dalton. Again, this is a bit higgledy-piggledy. It's kind of cobbled together from a few different tests. It is from the NDA's Rate My Service app, and you'll see a bunch of folks testing. And none of this has been redacted or anything like that, like the names are used and whatnot, but there's no personal information really apart from that transmitted here. So and this is being shown with permission of all the test participants as well. And once again, thank you to the NDA for allowing us to do this. So I'm going to just switch to video. Can you see that okay? Okay, great. Here we go. What I'd like you to do then in your favorites is open it up and review it.
Yeah, so we've done that already. Sorry about that.
You're ahead of the game, huh?
Yeah, so it's there, isn't it? And so then when we click into that, it says served by Dublin Bus, 38, 38A and 38B. Go ahead Ireland, and then it tells us the 220, 238 and 221.
Okay. So could you review that stop and tell us if you think it's a good one or a bad one, or what you like about it or don't like about it?
So like if we, so look at all the different buses. So if we're going to the shopping centre, what bus would we get? This one, isn't it? So what number do you have to look out for?
That one.
Which is
238.
238. Yeah. Okay. So and see the way it tells us that it's scheduled for this time. And then we can rate it. So after we get off it, we can rate it. Can we click into the rate me here just to see
Please do it. Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So we can rate them. We can tell the time. We can say if we're happy or sad. Can't we? Sometimes it's different with the buses, isn't it? Yeah. So, and then we can give an explanation and a comment to say if the bus driver was going too fast over the ramps. We can say that, innit? Wouldn't we? Yeah. So what do you think? You tell Josh now. Do you think it's good? So you have to tell him why you think it's good. So yeah. You have your mic, come on. You think it's good? No, you have to repeat it. You think
Okay.
it's good? Yeah.
It's good. Great. Well,
because sometimes Hossein has bad experiences on buses, obviously with his chair, and sometimes he's paying and the way the drivers drive.
Yes.
So the fact we can give feedback with this app would be perfect, wouldn't it?
What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a specific stop. So we're going to look for the stop on Dame Street. I'd like you to find any stops on Dame Street and favorite one by the central bank if you can.
I'm going to check if there's a search option, which there's not, so that's good to know. There's no real way to get back out of this menu, which is annoying. I guess we'll just reset this stops map. It would help if I knew Dublin, but I don't really, so suppose I'm just gonna scroll down,
So just on the search feature, so is the search, is there a functionality that you can find for searching?
well, my good instinct would be to go in here to the settings menu, but there's not unless okay, it's in the stops feature. I would have just a quick note from me. I suppose it would have been better if that wasn't buried under the stops feature. That should be more accessible, in my opinion. But it's like a dedicated search button, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm assuming this is the Dame Street stop that you're talking about.
All right.
And I press the heart there.
Yeah.
And then I'm assuming if I back out to the menu, then that will be in my favorites. I'll just check that there. Yeah, I think that's that then.
Okay, great. So we were able to add a stop. We were able to, we just had a look at our favorites as well, which is great. Now, what I'd like you to do is open that stop, say even one of those ones in your favorites, and review it. So say if you like the stop or not, or is there any mechanism there for you to give feedback?
Right. I'll go with this one. I'm assuming. I don't know if you can rate individual like stops because these are rating the buses. So again, that's a little bit confusing. Maybe it's just on me for something this, but yeah, there does seem to be a review feature here.
First task then I'm going to ask you to do is if you could search for a route, please.
Okay.
Any particular route.
Stops, button, routes, button. 416, menu, button. Routes. Stops map, button. Search for a route, search field. Search field is editing. Search for a route. Character mode, insertion point at start.
So a bus route number, they say
Yeah.
9. So,
Yeah.
Numbers. I'm the 7, 8, 9. 3 items on routes list.
yeah, just gonna-
Search. 3 items. Route 95. Route 92. Go ahead. Route 951. Go ahead.
that's my
Route 9.
next, so
Dublin
I'll
bus.
click on that.
Okay.
Wait my rating page. Back.
Okay.
Rating.
So you
Stop details. Tap to add stop.
okay.
Served by.
So you have a route there, Derry. You were able to search
Yeah.
for the route that you use
Yeah.
most daily. How did you
That-
find that task? How did you find doing
That
that?
wasn't too bad, yeah. There was, you had to flick it right to get to the edit field, and yeah, it wasn't bad. And it brought up other numbers rather than the 9, the first choice. It brought up 9, another bus route.
All right. And what kind of keyboard came up for you when you hit the edit button or the edit field?
It was the
Did you-
usual keyboard. I just went into numbers, and not the number. Actually, that's also numbers should come up, not letters, because unless I suppose there is buses routes N4, but really I thought numbers would come first.
So that's what your expectation would be, is it? That
Yeah,
when you
numbers.
enter a situation like that you would get some numbers up.
Numbers first, I imagine, but maybe now there's more H2s and N4s and N6. I must check. that.
Okay. So if we have a route search, then you found the route that you want, the route number 9. So if you could find a particular stop on that route, Derry, and then add it as a favorite, please.
Sure.
Change stop. But route details. 9. Optical equipment. Change route. Button. Clear. Button. Journey date. 20/6. Set date. Button. Journey time. 10:14. Change route. Button. Clear. Button. Change. 9. Optical equipment.
I don't know what that's about.
Route details. Change stop. Button. Served by. Tap to add stop. Stop details. Rating. Back. Button. Back. Button. Journey time. 10:4. Set the rating poor. Button. Rating very poor. Y. Tap to select set category. Button. Comment. Tap to add comment. Please note that any inappropriate edit comment. Button. Cancel. Button.
I'm trying to find if do you want me to add any number, any stop number?
Yeah, so if you could pick a stop on that route, Derry, and then add that particular stop as a favorite. I'm hearing some things about optical equipment. Any idea
Yeah,
what that's
I have
about?
no idea what that's about. And
Okay. Okay.
and I can't find
Back. Button. Rating.
So sorry, just repeat what you want me to do again, Josh. I found the
So-
39A, which is the bus I use regularly.
Perfect. And then see if you can open that and review it.
Yep, sure.
Stop details. Tap to add stop. Stop details. Stop details. Tap to add stop. Served by. Tap to add stop.
Now that, to me, that's a little confusing about what it means by tap to add stop.
Okay.
Because we've
Details.
gone from stop detail, tap to add
Tap
stop.
to add stop.
Adds, because it's tap to add stop to what, I suppose I would be asking.
Served by.
Served by, right.
Change stop. Button. Route details.
Okay, route details.
39A. Change route. Button. Clear. Button. Journey date. 13/06/2022. Set date. Button. Journey time. 10:24. Set time. Button. The fields marked with an asterisk star are required.
Right.
Rating label. Field required. Rating excellent. Button.
Okay, so we'll
Rating
go
okay. Button.
rating okay.
Rating okay. Rating okay selected. Rating excellent. Button. Rating poor. Button. Rating very poor. Button. Y. Tap to select categories.
Tap to select.
Y. Rating very Y.
Presume that's Y rather than Y.
Tap to select categories. Y. Y. Tap to select categories. Set category. Button.
Okay,
Tap to select categories.
set a category here, see what happens.
Select one or more categories. Fares and ticketing. Timetabling/service changes. RDPI issues. Timetabling/service changes. Timetabling/service changes.
Okay, so I know that I'm assuming now that the app is now allowing me to effectively make a comment about one aspect on this route. And in this case,
Microsoft Teams notification.
I've selected the timetable.
Yeah.
So I want to make a rating
Calendar Microsoft Teams.
related to the timetable, which isn't always the most efficient.
Microsoft Teams loaded.
RDPI issues. Service issues.
Okay.
Staff issues.
Now why didn't that
Service
select
RDPI
it?
issues. Timetabling/service changes.
Can I
Timetabling
ask,
slash
Goran,
changes.
do you know what RTPI issues are?
Is that real time? Yeah, that's real time information, isn't it?
Okay, fair play. All right, great.
Well, let's select RTBI issues then.
No,
RTPI
you're
issues.
probably right. I was just curious because if I don't know what it is, so I was just curious if you did.
I
Service
could
issues.
be wrong.
Staff issues.
But
Antisocial
here
behavior.
I'm trying to select just one.
Staff issues.
So, okay, so what
Antisocial.
happens
Cancel.
again?
Okay. Button.
Okay,
Okay.
so
Button.
you have to go all the way down to the
Set
bottom of
category. Button.
that list to click the OK, whereas I would have thought when you select whatever category you want by double tapping it, that would just effectively enable or engage the OK button, and you'd return to the main screen. So
Okay.
like there, you probably saw I had to move down through all the available categories before clicking the OK button, which is a little time consuming, I would personally say again.
Okay, so I hope that was informative and useful and gave you some insight into how all this stuff works. And I'm going to just quickly just wrap up the end of this bit. So you got to see some folks using assistive technology in their own environment. Which is one of the pluses of COVID, actually, in a way, is that usability testing was usually done in a lab, and it was quite a logistical effort to do. And now that isn't really actually the case. We can actually capture people's assistive technology. We can video the whole thing. They can be comfortable. They have everything set up the way that they want it in their own environment. And that works really, really well because just finally to say usability is a really, really critical part of all of this stack. To be technically accessible is fine. You can produce stuff that's technically accessible. Can anybody use it? And this is the critical question. This is really what we want to kind of get to. So that's really it for me. I'm in the deck here. I'm going to include some links to a few things that you may all find useful. And when you go forth into your projects, go on, do it. Just get set up. Don't worry about things being perfect, but talk to folks, talk to organizations. Disability awareness groups, talk to disability service providing organizations, and just get involved, get in there. So thanks very much, and look forward to hearing from Ulla and Sorca and answering any questions maybe at the end. So thanks a million.
Thanks a million, Josh. Thanks for that. There was there was a lot going on there, but I have a bit of an advantage here that I saw the report that you gave to NDA, which had these videos were part of the report. There was a kind of an explanation written up as well, explaining each of the issues. And, you know, I must say that some of the issues there, they're ones that really, as an accessibility tester, I might never find them, you know, because I might be looking at them through the lens of you know, a tester rather than someone who's actually trying to use this and suddenly encountering, I don't know, a button that has got this bizarre, you know, name on it, or a piece of functionality that doesn't really work the way it should. So that's really enlightening. There was a lot going on there. I'm actually probably going to watch back the video of this again just to get a little bit more of a sense as to what was going on. And I did notice that, Josh, that it's all remote. I mean, I look, it's years since I've commissioned user testing, but we had to book a hotel room, right? We had to book a facility in order to be able to hold it. So it's great that that's able to be done online. I have one question, and it's about people's using screen readers. So you might be able to answer this for us. Do you often see people speeding up the audio playback? And I presume this means the screen reader to navigate the interface quicker.
Generally, no. I mean, people will have, you were actually seeing people there with their own preferred speed there, so it wasn't slowed down for, like, as you say, for a testing environment. But people, the speed of an interaction. You see, a screen reader isn't just a screen reader. Briefly to say, it's a navigation and interaction device that reads stuff. So so it's a bit like calling your phone a phone. Your phone isn't a phone, it's a supercomputer that you can make calls with. So this kind of thing. But interesting question, but generally no, the interaction dependent on how the user is able to connect with the good accessible code you're developing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks very much, Josh, for that. Really interesting. And I'm going to hand over to, and folks, keep the questions coming into either the chat or the Q&A section, and we'll tee those up at the end. And now I'm delighted to hand over to Ulla and Sorca. And Ulla is a member of the management team of HSE Digital. We've been working quite closely with you in recent months, Ulla, and Sorca as well. And Ulla has been overseeing an ambitious roadmap of work to transform the HSE's public-facing digital offering. You manage a cross-functional team, Ulla, and you put user needs, inclusive design, and accessibility at the center of everything that HSE Digital do. And Sorca has, for the last 3 years, been working with Ulla on the HSE Digital UX team as a user researcher, focusing on ensuring websites are accessible and inclusive as possible. So I'm really excited to hear about your work. Very often our meetings are focusing in the minutiae of accessibility issues and compliance and that sort of thing, but there's a lot more to the work that your team do than that. So I'm delighted to hand it over to you and to hear about some of your work. So please, you have the stage, as it were.
That's great. Thanks so much, Donal. Can everybody see that?
Yeah, clear for
great.
me.
So yeah, as I said, thanks so much for allowing us to be involved today. Sorry, it's just gone forward one. So as Donal said, I'm the Development and User Experience Manager on the HSE Digital team. And this is just a slide to introduce the rest of our team. And then, Sorca is a user researcher whose focus is on accessibility. And it's been such a bonus for our team to have somebody who really has that focus, because Sorca does a lot of research and also sharing learnings with our wider team, so that we all kind of know things to watch out for. And I suppose everybody that's listed there on our team has a very strong background in user testing and involving users at every stage of their projects, which is such a bonus to have across our team, from the designers to the researchers to developers. So it is great to have that. And so I suppose today I'll just go through our approach to user testing overall as a team, and then Sorca will go into more specific examples of some of the research findings, and in particular some of the projects that we are working on at the moment with an accessibility focus. So and Josh touched on this as well, and those videos were so interesting to see. That obviously the user testing is getting end users to test and evaluate the products, features, or prototypes. But I suppose we need to make sure that what we're testing meets the accessibility criteria. So that's not something that's a blocker to the tests being successful. So that's just something we always have to keep in mind when we're just testing with different types of users. I suppose just to say that Sorca also conducts our own accessibility audits on our sites or any new features or designs before they go live, and that's done quarterly, those audits. So I suppose we are checking for compliance, but like everybody's mentioned already, that's completely different to somebody actually interacting with the product itself. So then in terms of the types of testing that we're generally doing at the moment, so the most popular ones across the team are moderated testing, unmoderated testing, and multivariate testing. And I suppose just to say that we do tailor our tests where possible so that they can be as inclusive as possible. So that can at times be going to the location of a participant. But we have found that the online or remote testing has worked really well for us. But we can also facilitate closed captioning or kind of sending over the tasks in advance so that somebody has them, can refer to them if they need to at the time. So we generally try to understand the user's needs and then tailor the test accordingly. So yeah, moderated testing, as I said, particularly, since the start of the COVID pandemic, all of the tests have been conducted online. We use Microsoft Teams ourselves. We try to keep them semi-structured, and they're a great way of kind of understanding users' behaviors, how they're interacting with the site. And then we would try to keep them, I know it says 50 to 80 minutes there, but probably to 50 to 60 minutes max, just to get so that people don't become fatigued by the end of it. And like I just mentioned there, we will always try to tailor the test to suit the particular participant. We do also contact any participant in advance to check the connection to make sure that they kind of understand what's involved in the test, just to kind of set them at ease and make sure that they're comfortable with the testing overall. And then we've also brought in a tool called Maze over the last year or two to conduct unmoderated testing. So this is done online, and there's the access to kind of a very large testing group. And this is great to get kind of very quick access to results. And the tests are structured, and we can get qualitative and quantitative data from them. And we try to keep those to around 15 minutes max. Our content team have found these incredibly useful for testing content before it's published, especially kind of content we've never had on the site before. So, for example, we took this approach with the monkeypox content that was published last year, and it was great just to get users' feedback on the content itself in advance of it going live. And then we do also conduct multivariate or A/B testing, again using Maze, and this is where we would test two different types of templates, same content, and see which one performs better. And we've conducted testing on we have a new Health Aid Decide page that we'll be launching in the next couple of weeks, and that's been informed completely by the results of our testing. So I suppose we've gone through a number of these already, but yeah, it's access to Microsoft Teams for online testing, make sure there's good connection in a quiet space. And then we do always ask about recording just so that we have those to refer back to afterwards. And then in person, I suppose we had done a lot of in-person testing in our offices in Core Market before the COVID pandemic, and we have been talking as a group about enabling that again in the coming year. So once a month having a lab on site where we can invite people to come in. But for us, I mean, the remote testing has been invaluable over the last 2 years. And then just a word around kind of the nuts and bolts of what we're doing. So we would run recruitment surveys on the site, and they can be kind of a pop-out that comes in or via email. We also reach out then to partner organisations, community groups that the HSE have links to if we want to recruit specific types of users. And then what we're looking to do is like the gov.uk approach, where we would develop a permanent page on the website where we can gather a panel of users that we can ask to be part of any upcoming testing that we have. So as well, because we have now a number of user researchers on the team, we're looking at creating that kind of centralized testing pool where there would be a consistent list of testers that we could access at all times. This would result in kind of reduced admin for our team rather than going out every time we have a new project, that we'd have that panel. And then from a data protection perspective, it's easier to review all of those participants' data in the same place. So we're looking at using monday.com for that. There's an accessibility review of that happening at the moment, and we're planning to launch a pilot for this in the middle of Q2. And then Sorca will go into this in more detail during her slides, but we try to get a wide range of users to test with. For the moderated testing, it's generally kind of 8 to 10 participants. We look across age groups to make sure that we have kind of a wide spread during the test, and then also try to see, can we test with people who English isn't their first language, and then a wide variety of people who are from uncomfortable to very comfortable with using technology. And we also try and test across devices and have also tested with users who use assistive technology. And then in terms of, this has been a really new development across our team, and it's been so invaluable, is how we share our findings. So now we use a tool called Notion, and that houses all of the research activities, which includes all of the testing plans, the scripts, so everybody can refer to them. And then we also are tagging all of the findings and recommendations. So for example, if there's something relating to navigation, accessibility, diabetes, mental health, anything like that, anybody who's embarking on a new project across the team, so that's the content team, digital marketing, social media, can also access this repository of findings to make sure that they know what's been going on the site and whether there's any relevant user research that's already been conducted. So that's been, I suppose, just for ourselves, it's starting to build up at the moment, but will become a really important resource across our team going forward. And I'll hand over now to Sorca, who'll go through some examples of findings and projects that we've been working on recently.
Thanks, Ulla. So I'll go through 2 research examples from some recent testing that we've conducted, but we've also added in more examples at the end of this presentation. So Jay recently conducted testing of our service finders and gathered some great user insights. So one of the findings was around the structure of the content not meeting user expectations. The first bit of the microcopy that a user sees is, if there are no walk-in clinic schedules below, you can book a vaccine appointment. So the issue here was that this does not really instill a lot of confidence in the user and makes it unclear if there is a schedule or not. 63% of users thought the headings throughout the pages were unclear, so the headings were too long and took some users a fair few moments to locate the schedule. This is helping us with creating standards around character length of headings and standardizing that approach. So there were sorry, that's a wrong thing. So 71% of users also mentioned the fact that the other order of the information did not flow very well. They were expecting it to be the schedule and then the requirements. The users also mentioned that it would be great if they could also access the pharmacies giving the vaccine from this page, as there was no schedule available. And during testing, some users brought up the fact that there was no indication of when the schedule actually gets updated. We'll go to the next slide there, Ulla, please. Thank you. So these 2 screenshots here, the one on the left is the existing layout, and then on the right were the kind of improved layout, taking into account the user feedback. Could go on to the next slide, please. So Ulla mentioned briefly there that we do really try and be as inclusive as possible in testing. That meaning, we don't just test with native English speakers in their 20s that are very capable online. We really do try and set up sessions that test with people in different age groups, people from diverse backgrounds, and then people with diverse needs and varying levels of English and digital literacy. We're in quite an advantageous position with the HSE because we have, great partner organizations that we can reach out to. I've included some logos on this slide. So there's the National Council for the Blind of Ireland, NCBI, they've been great. Dementia Understand Together, that's a partner organization around dementia awareness. We've linked in with DePaul, homeless organisations, as well as HSE Social Inclusion. They've been great for linking us in with kind of, you know, minority user groups, people in the Traveller and Roma communities. So DTP is Donegal Traveller project, and Pavi Point, as well as we've worked with Josh in InterAccess in the past, and of course couldn't leave NDA out. They've been great in explaining the different issues flagged in audits, as well as lots of other support. So if you could move on to that next slide, please. Thank you. So this example is a piece of research we carried out with Understand Together, one of our partner organisations for people living with dementia, their carers and family. This testing followed quite a moderated testing methodology. There were 7 participants in total, 3 of which were people living with dementia and 4 of which were their carers or people who had been in a caring role previously. So the user group was mostly, mostly elderly or older users, and they were mostly on laptops and tablets, but some of them and some of the testing was carried out with mobile users. So the main focus of this study was to gain a greater understanding of how certain users interact with this website. We looked at specifically navigation, so how users got to the page, how their searches work in Google, how easy it was to find the page within an internal search, and then also using internal links or links to other pages within the site. We also looked at then service finders, so understanding the improvements that can be made to this function, as well as ensuring that the information that was available was usable and intuitive. We looked at links, so ensuring that links were operable, easily understood, and met user expectations. And we also looked at the microcopy, so checking out the information, making sure that it was understandable, informative, and of course accessible. So unsurprisingly, majority of participants began their search journey in Google rather than using our internal searches or global navigation panels. From a links perspective, users had a difficult time seeing and selecting the link text on the website due to poor color contrast. It was actually a very big issue because eyesight tends to decline as we age, and the majority of visitors to this site were over the age of 60. So it really meant that a lot of the links just weren't being used. And then from a microcopy perspective, users were concerned that the microcopy was out of date, it wasn't specific enough or even inclusive enough. And then we also looked a little bit at comparing the service finders on the website, on the Understand Together website, and previous versions we had on the HSE website, particularly the pharmacy service finder. And we made improvements. We found out that users, expected to find contact details that just weren't included. And just on the right-hand side there's just 2 quotes from the testing. So I'll briefly run through these. So this here, we have a screenshot of the search results on the Understand Together page. So you can see from navigation perspective, the relevant search result appears at the bottom of the search. A user, in this case, was searching for a type of dementia, and the actual most relevant search was found at the bottom. So this is a search issue, and there's ongoing work there to improve that. Another issue was that there was no keyword was highlighted because the keywords would have been in the link text itself, and there were lots of color contrast issues with the link, so people weren't sure were the results relevant. And overall, as with all of our testing, it's just important to note that the feedback really does help to inform decisions, not just on Understand Together, but also the rest of the HSE website. So on this example, there's the landing page on mobile and on desktop. The issues here were that users encountered difficulty with the drop-down menu and across both environments. So on desktop, users didn't know how to get rid of it. There was no delay when users hovered over it, so it actually covered over some really important content. And then on mobile, users didn't actually even recognize the pattern of the global navigation panel, excuse me, so they actually didn't use this type of navigation on mobile. Thank you. So, and then just quickly looking at the service finder. So lots of issues here. Users felt that there was maybe timeline, input fields to help focus their searches. That's something we've kind of taken into account on other service finders. Users confused the pink title for a button. So users tried selecting this section and were confused when nothing happened. Users found the link text difficult to read. Again, I've mentioned due to poor color contrast. Another issue here was that lots of really important information was hidden behind these plus info links. So like things like contact number or contact name. And users felt that, it kind of needs to be at a glance. So the important information should be available straight away. And then also some users didn't notice the view more button at the bottom and actually thought that the service finder was incomplete. So I've mentioned we've included more examples at the end of this presentation, but just like a summary of the great insights we've gotten from user testing. So understanding diverse user needs, navigation improvements, making content more inclusive, ensuring that there's a product robustness. So that means making sure that the websites work across all devices, enhanced content structure and layout, and then also it's always easier to convince maybe reluctant stakeholders that change does actually need to be made. And then I'll fly through recent projects. You can maybe read that yourselves at the end of this presentation, but we do have lots of user testing projects that are closing and then that are also ongoing. And then on why it's important. So user testing has really helped inform a lot of projects within HSE. So it's helped drastically in developing our design system and guidelines. The learnings from testing help us document improvements to the website so that tested solutions are designed into templates as patterns and components. It's also been extremely beneficial in writing various guidelines. It's been great for creating an empathy lab. So we're trying to develop an immersive learning workshop that raises awareness of the diverse user needs of the users to our websites. It's been really helpful in us providing monthly accessibility meetings, so like learning meetings, conversations on universal design best practices. And we're really trying to roll that out to the wider HSE comms or communications and the wider HSE organization. And then also it's been great for understanding, some of those, or lots of those issues flagged in the NBA audit, as well as the quarterly internal audits that we carry out. And then the last couple of slides are just, or the last slide is resources and guides. So we've included some resources there that we have used to help with creating our testing plans. So there's the likes of gov.uk, help make gov.uk better. They have great advice. And then we've also included links to some of the tools we use, which is Maze and Smart Survey. And then, I mentioned the design system and the guidelines. Those are all available in Notion, which is kind of an internal tool that we use for documentation. But if anyone is interested in seeing some of those work in progress pieces, I've included my email and Ulla's email, so you can get in contact with us and we'll be able to share those with you. And that is it.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much, Sorca and Ulla. And lots of questions coming in, and thanks to Josh for doing some great work here to chip away at answering questions. One question I have myself, Sorca and Ulla, is user testing messy? because, you know, in the world of accessibility auditing, it's quite neat. We know what we're going to test against, and we have definitive answers coming from each of those tests. When you embark on doing some user testing, you might be looking for answers to one thing, but then you might find, oh gosh, there's something else happening over here. And how do you manage that in terms of writing up the results of your user testing or whatever you might need to do?
Yeah, I can pitch in, and Ulla, you can pitch in with anything I've forgotten. But yeah, no, it can, I don't know if messy is the right word, but you definitely have to be flexible.
Okay.
And, you know, I know from testing I've carried out recently with kind of more of a disabled user group, you know, something that you might have totally overlooked will become an issue, and that's something definitely worth exploring. So if it's something that, you know, it might delay the, you know, make the accessibility testing a little bit longer, I mean, I think depending on the severity of the issue, it's definitely something worth following up on. But yeah, I think definitely when you're running user testing, it's all about being flexible. Yeah.
Okay, great. Some other questions coming in here, and a couple of people thanking you very much for the presentation, how interesting it is. One question that you actually answered in the slide is how you recruit participants. So it looks like there's no one way, that you've got a variety of kind of relationships. And I mean, do you find that it's something that you have to keep up to date, your kind of, not your database, but your contact lists of participants for user testing?
Yeah, I think we do, and we are kind of constantly refining the process as to how we can also improve on recruitment. But like, certainly we found through kind of conversations almost at random at times with other people across the HSE, they can say, oh, actually, I have access to this group. They would really love to be involved in what you're doing. So we just try to talk to as many people as possible, put the word out there around what we're doing. And then from that, organically, we've actually gotten a lot of contacts and, you know, really valuable insights then when we've done the testing. So yeah, it's a mishmash there again.
Okay. Okay. Just looking back at the chat, and thanks, folks. Some of you have answered questions from other participants. So thanks, Gareth, and thanks, Sarah, for answering those questions. Yeah, it's, you know, just as a comment after coming in, great to see UX investment in the HSE. But my question is, do you have, or have you had to get buy-in from senior managers around this? Because, you know, we've all probably experienced what someone in RTE Digital once called the magic skateboard, where you're at the last hour of development, about to go live, and a senior management comes in on the magic skateboard and goes, I want to change this. And all the design, all the UX, all the testing, all the development kind of then is usurped by you know, a senior manager's kind of personal opinion. Have you got good buy-in from your senior management team around the process that you're using? That is, I call it messy, right? For me, it looks messy. For you, it's very much a defined process, but it's an iterative process that you keep on refining and improving. Have you had to garner that type of buy-in?
I think we did a little bit. The first thing was when we were initially, we first launched our newer version of the site in 2018. Until that, we were talking about it, and that was really difficult because nobody could see it. Once we had something we could show to people, I think that made those conversations much easier. And then the second thing was COVID, which I know I'm always saying, if people are like, COVID wasn't a good thing, but actually for us, it was, because our team were involved very heavily in the likes of the vaccine registration system, any of the kind of booster booking systems, just as in an advisory capacity, to make sure that the content on the screen and also the flow was how we would kind of like to do it, or so I'm like also pushing for accessibility audits to be conducted on those systems before they went live. And that now loads of people across the HC have adopted that for different systems that they're working on, which I think has been a real great legacy of COVID for us anyway.
Okay, really interesting. Look, the hour has flown. We're at the top of the hour and we need to finish. Before I thank the speakers, I just want everyone to maybe jump on to their reactions button on Zoom. And I want you to respond to the following question, because I'm getting the real sense that for an event like this, it would actually be more intuitive to go and have these sort of events in person, right? So that's my view, because there's a lot of, I mean, there's way more knowledge in the in amongst participants than I have in this area. So I'm just wondering, would people favor some sort of an in-person event in our next series of seminars in conjunction with the ICS? And if you could just give your reaction now, it'll be either raising your hand or some other sort of reaction button there. So okay, great. Well, look, I'm going to let that trundle on and we'll take a count at the end. But this has been wonderful. It's a wonderful way for us to end this series of seminars. So thank you very much to Ulla. Thanks, Sorca. Thanks, Josh. I know there's a couple of people wanting to follow up with you all, so I'll leave that to them. A particular thank you to our captioner today, who's had we've thrown everything at you today, Judith. So between videos and technical jargon, you're well used to us at this stage, but well done on that. And a big thank you to our partners, Irish Computer Society, for continuing to work with us on these events. I can see that there's a good appetite for in-person events, so we'll look at that and take it on board. And when we announce the next series of events, we'll try and take that into account. So look, thanks everyone. Have a good rest of your day, and keep on keeping on. Do the user testing, ask people what their views are, and that seems to be the message coming from today. So thank you very much. Bye for now.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.